Howdy doody. Welcome back to the ranch. My name is Mick. This, behind me under the tarp, an abandoned 2003 Exmark zero-turn mower. I'd love to say that it was actually left behind on the property, but I actually think the story is a little bit better than that. We'll get into that in a little bit, but the point is, this thing hasn't ran in I don't know how long. I'm gonna say at least 5 years, but probably more. It has been neglected and abused for the last portion of its running life, and it was gifted to me. F-R-E-E, that spells freecreditreport.com, baby. The plan for this is to maintain the property. There isn't a lot of grass here yet, but there will be. And as of right now, my grass is getting long where it is, and I'd like to do some mowing, and I'd rather not use a push mower. So let's get this thing fired up for the first time in over 5 years, and Lord knows it's gonna need all the fluids, all of the spark plugs, and all of the carb rebuild. So let's get to it. This is going to be the first project on the official Nock Ranch, and I know it's a small hitter, but I'm actually really excited for this because of the history involved with the mower. But I hope you guys are going to enjoy this one. We got bigger, heavier projects coming up soon, but this one is definitely a necessity. I got to get cutting. Getting the lay of the land out here. All right, I gotta be honest, standing in here ready to work on my first project I can't stop smiling. I mean, I never imagined that I would be right now in the process of, getting a place. I never thought that I'd be sitting in a shop, a usable shop, a really nice shop that I can actually, work indoors. Amazing. I mean, overhead doors that I can fit a semi-truck in. Neither here nor there. Let's move on. Here's the fact of the matter. It's dark out, big time, because the nature of this property, I can't walk 5 feet without looking at something and thinking to myself, not even thinking, just, out of impulse, just starting something else. I'm a million miles an hour everywhere on this property, and I like that. But the tough part is it keeps it hard to stay on task. So last time you saw me on this, that was about 2 hours ago, because I've been busy elsewhere, just, picking up pieces everywhere. It's just, It's a lot of picking up garbage and cleaning up, tidying up. Speaking of tidying up, I have not touched this garage one bit since I crammed everything in here. Have not organized anything. It is all just sitting around waiting to be organized, and I will get to that, but it's pretty low on the priority list. As of right now, I'm back and forth with a bunch of things, so tools are in a bag, essentially, on the go. I'm gonna try my best to find the tools that I need for this project, but speaking of the project, this is, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, this is my mower from childhood. We had enough property growing up to warrant a zero-turn mower. This was like as far as we went, as far as heavy equipment. This is actually how I learned how to, get the general feel of skid steer controls. I remember my dad bringing home a skid steer that he borrowed off of another contractor, and my first time sitting in a skid steer, using it, operating a skid steer, I was probably 12. But I had the general gist of it from this machine right here. This is where it all started. When I was 14 years old, I started cutting grass around town, and that's how I learned how to drive with a trailer behind me, because I would drive this behind me. But before that, before I could drive, I am not kidding nor exaggerating, I would ride this Bobby Boucher style.
I hope you like what I did to y'all lawnmower.
Down the street to my miscellaneous jobs. That was basically my first little taste of entrepreneurship. I would ride this thing around town. I got pulled over by the police multiple times, but what are they gonna say to a 14-year-old trying to make some money? I would drive down the sidewalk, I'd cut through the metro parks, they're called around here, different bike trails and stuff to get to wherever I needed to go. Lots and lots of memories, lots of time on this thing. Speaking of, I didn't realize there was actually an hour meter here, and it reads 528 hours. So plenty of time spent in that seat, and really the only two people that ever used it were me and my dad. Anyway, that is the machine. The story goes with this thing, when my parents sold my childhood home, they moved out to more of like a lake community vibe where they really didn't have and still don't have much property at all. This would be overkill, to say the least, to mow the grass with this thing. So my dad has stored it, knowing the value of it. He bought it new, so it's a one owner, a zero turn, and he basically was holding out for me to have a piece of property that would, make good use of this thing, and here we are. So this was basically my housewarming gift from my parents, and I do not take that for granted at all. This will be a very, very useful tool and piece of equipment for me, so thank you to my parents. But in order to use it, we have to work on it. We got to get it running. It's just been sitting in storage for a long time. I don't know anything about this tractor. I am just going to dive in. I'm not reading up. It's a mower. How complicated could it be?
You sure about that?
So we're going to do a little once over on this thing, figure out where everything's at, dive right in. Okay. First question mark is the armrest. Fixed.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Next, how do I get the seat up? There it is.
Yeah, no, he is very cool.
Yep. This battery is from 2015, so that'll give you a good idea. Come on in. The water's warm. So here's what we're looking at. A regular lawn and garden battery, or whatever they're called. Date code is July of 2015. Batteries don't last but a couple years, especially when you never disconnect the leads, which obviously these were never disconnected. Engine oil, I don't know if this is a dipstick and a fill. Sure is. Just realized my autofocus wasn't working, so I'm not sure if I was ever in focus, but It's low, it smells like gasoline, so that is a all-around no surprise type of situation. Okay, hydraulic oil. That's interesting. You use engine oil for your hydraulic. Okay, this is definitely the hydraulic oil, and it definitely, oh my goodness, definitely has not been opened in a long time. Holy criminy. Okay, good Lord. Wow, smells terrible. Okay, there's oil in there. Wow, that smells awful. Who are you?
I'm you 10 minutes from now. You are handsome.
I'm you. Not sure how long these Kawasaki FH641V engines last. We sure did use this thing a lot. Let's see, air filter does not look as bad as I thought it would. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I am pleasantly surprised by that. I wish there was some sort of date code on here or something, but that looks pretty nice. Obviously replacing it. Carburetor down here looks filthy on the outside, but honestly not too bad on the inside. Basically, my plan with this thing is I'm gonna throw a battery in it. I know I have oil in it, some oil. So throw a battery in it, see if it cranks over. Maybe throw a little ether in there just to see if I got spark. And I'll take you through the kit that I got. Unfortunately, even though it doesn't look brand new, it is. During the moving process, I had a Group 31 battery in my back seat. And she tipped over at some point, and I didn't notice. I got battery acid everywhere. And unfortunately, this took the brunt end of the damage. I'm hoping the contents are salvageable. Yep, there is battery acid in this oil filter. And I would love to tell you that I am going to replace it with a new one, even though this is brand new. However, what I'm going to do is dump some oil in this. Kind of flush her out, and then we're going to use it. Next question, how's my air filter? Worst case scenario, if this isn't any good, I can run the old one. Okay, we got a couple things in here. We got a spark plug, halfway corroded. Another spark plug. It smells terrible, but looks better than the other one. New air filter. Let's see if this is the... God, there's battery acid everywhere. This has a little cover on it, which is nice. Looks to be like the one that I need. This one was sealed off. And that's the kit. I hate myself for my little battery acid mishap. But what are you gonna do? We're just gonna move on. So let's find my tools, throw a new battery in this thing, and see if she cranks over. All right. I'm sure I haven't even tried charging this thing. I am sure it is deader than a doornail, whatever that means. I already dropped a bolt. That's so typically me. I think there's another one down there. Nope, just acorns. Old battery out. Ugh, what a hassle having to walk all the way across my shop in order to get to the garbage can.
What are you giving him for Christmas?
Look, I'm gonna soak it in now while I can, because remember, I am not keeping this shop for long. I'll probably squeak through the winter with it so I don't have to work in the cold as much. Yeah, as soon as I can sell this property, I have to, because I can't afford the rest of it without selling it. New battery, 2022, but that's neither here nor there. I guess I should put my battery strap back on. Very demure, very mindful. No sparking or anything, so without the key on, there is no draw. Speaking of the key, take a look at this thing. Vintage Cleveland Brownies. My dad's got good taste. Any Browns fans out there? Let's twist this thing. I don't really have any doubts that this is going to turn over unless something with the battery isn't right. But give one click, it's accessory on. Give her a little bump. I don't think this thing is in gear, but just in case. I guess I could engage my parking brake. All right, ready? Oh yeah. Cool. Let's see if we can throw some ether at it. Maybe we can get her to bark off. All right, a little ether. Turn my throttle all the way down, a little bit of choke. See what happens. Immediate. Didn't like that noise though. Sounded like there wasn't really much oil pressure. That could have been clanking, I guess. It could have been from the ether, but that didn't sound good at all. I'm gonna try cranking it a little bit without any ether just to see if I can't build some oil pressure. There are no gauges on this thing, so I don't know. But let's see if we can just crank it over a little bit. She wants to go again. All right, give that starter a break for a second. Come to Papa. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good when it's running. I think that hard clanking might be from the ether, but I'm not worried about it. Sounds good. Okay, moving on to fuel. And just kind of poking around here, I noticed one thing. I was thinking that this might have been some sort of vacuum system or something, but I doubt that actually. I was thinking that these tanks were gravity fed, but the way that I'm thinking this goes is these two tanks feed into a valve, so it basically decides up front, are you pulling from the left-hand or right-hand tank? This is the main feed line to the carburetor, which runs down here through a fuel filter and up, and I'm assuming this is a fuel pump. Assuming. But that's what makes sense to me. So this then comes direct into your carburetor. I was planning on cleaning this. However, just going off of how quickly that thing fired off, I don't think I'm gonna mess around with tearing into the carburetor until I have to. So I'm gonna let it sit how it is. I am, however, going to change out the spark plugs regardless. Those are cheap enough. And there is only good that can come from swapping out a new plug and making sure you got nice hot spark. So definitely gonna find the spark plugs because I don't know where they are. Replace those. First and foremost, I'm going to check out these tanks, which I'm pretty sure. Ooh, 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 ooh. She do be empty though. Varnished. Some people enjoy the smell of varnished gas. I do not. Let's do a little more of a waft. That one's been emptier for longer, I think. I barely even smell gas in that. So maybe there is gas in that left-hand tank. Is it the left-hand tank? But I'm gonna go ahead and fill this one up because it is on the carburetor side. I don't think that really means anything. I guess my theory is shorter run, but they both go to the same valve, so whatever. I'm gonna fill this one up. I'm gonna swap out the fuel filter, and while I'm doing that, I'll just verify that I have fuel getting to the filter. I would assume the fuel pump has to work in order for that to happen, so we'll probably have to crank it over. So anyway, let's fill up that tank, pull that filter, see if we've got fuel. Sounds empty. We're gonna run with that for now. Now I do enjoy the smell of fresh gas. Let's get down here and pull this filter. I do have fuel hose pliers. Not even gonna try and find them. Holy sticky. There we go. Come on, meow.
Meow.
Right. Old filter. Junk. Acorn. Junk. Okay, I'm assuming if I turn on my fuel... Oh, we got fuel. Was not expecting that. All right, let's throw a filter in there. This filter doesn't have a flow arrow, but for future reference, I believe this is true. Fuel comes in on the side that does not have the filter stuck to it. So the filter is on this side, like the end of the filter is on this side, so that is your outlet. This is your inlet side. This is to the carb side. So we'll stick this on here. Two different hose clamp styles, which is strange. The nice part about having something from my dad is I know nothing was modified. He keeps everything stock the way it's supposed to be. Essentially, if we turn the fuel on, as long as that fuel pump is working, which it looks relatively fresh, so I'm assuming that was replaced at some point, we should be able to fire this thing up on its own fuel system, which is the quickest that'll ever happen. Let's turn fuel on. My filter is filling up. Let's give her a little choke and turn the key, see what happens. Ready? Come on. So far we got nothing. Forgot about that. This choke cap always popped off. Still does. We'll have to fix that. Try again. Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, and my fuel pump is leaking. Great. Why are you leaking? Where are you leaking from? All right, so I got a leak in my fuel pump right here. Not sure where, anatomy-wise that is coming from, but it's not from the hoses. That's definitely internal. So I want to see, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to pop this hose off and just see if I'm getting fuel out of the pump before I start tearing into the carburetor. But that is sus. So let's just see what we get on this other end. Turning over. That's unfortunate. Okay, fuel pump works and it leaks, so that's a lose-lose for me. That means I need to replace it even though it works. Before I throw in the towel on this carburetor, I am going to give it a little more ether, see if I can't get it running on ether and see if the fuel will catch up by having it run. Yeah, I'm still leaking over there. That sucks. Oh! That's all it needed. Fuel pump is not happy. That thing is spraying fuel everywhere. Sweet. Yeah, fuel pump is definitely not happy. Smells good. All right, I'm gonna throw the air filter on just so it has proper air-fuel mixture, because what I want to see is if I can let this idle and see if it'll throttle up. I have my suspicions. Typically on small engines, idling isn't always the problem. It's any sort of throttle response. So, you know, if those jets get clogged up, that's what happens. So let's fire this thing back up, do the same thing, see if I can't let it warm up a little bit, because I want to get that oil moving through there to drain anyway. See if it'll fire up with the key. How about a little choke? Negative. That's not looking good. Do I need to take the air filter off, or can I just spray it right in? Yeah. When it's running good. All right, let's see if we can't throttle it up a little bit. Sweet. Idles down. Nice. All right. We got a running machine here. Awesome. Definitely spraying fuel everywhere. That sucks. I am going to do two things, because one, it is late. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and I would like to get to bed. But what I'm going to do, since I got this running a little bit, I'm going to jump below, drain the oil out, and let it sit. I'm going to order that fuel pump. I'm sure that'll be in a day or two, and we'll be back at this thing, fill it back up with oil, swap out the spark plugs, swap out that fuel pump, see what happens from there. I'll be honest, I've got no idea where the drain plug is for the oil. I think you just drain through the oil filter. So I was expecting just this bolt to be turning, and I got my wrench on it, and that whole plastic piece turns, and it was very, very loose. So I'm assuming this is where my leak was. Yep, there we go. That's oil. Okay, we're back. I got my parts, so we're ready to go. First thing we're gonna do is get this fuel pump off. I believe it's a 10 millimeter. Nice and simple, just 2 bolts. We're gonna have to deal with those crusty hoses. Hopefully they're malleable enough where I don't have to replace them. I don't know if I have the right size or not. I don't know why I'm fooling around with this. Enough to do it. Probably not this one though. Sure, just drop the bolts, that's fine. One line that doesn't have a hose clamp on it, which I'm fine with. I would have done the same thing. Okay. So my main inlet is on top. Actually, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it just like that so I know. Totally unlike me, but we have a genuine Kawasaki part here. A little trick of the trade for those of you shopping on the Amazons. Whenever you're looking at a product, go and see if there are used options available. All that typically means, not typically, I think that all that means is if they'll send it back in the original packaging, typically just taped up. It's still a brand new product, and it's always like 75% of the price. So that is what I did here. The cost of this fuel pump, the Kawasaki name brand, was the same cost as the cheapo knockoff aftermarket fuel pump. So That's called a win right there. Missed, that's cool. Actually, before I do this, just before it's in the way, I found where my spark plugs are at, and the driver's side, per se, is a little bit easier to get to with the fuel pump off, so I'm gonna knock that out real quick. It's right there is the boot, and then on this side, it's right there. I already knocked the boot off. Up. That's hand tight. Probably because whoever changed these spark plugs out last figured, I can't get a ratchet in here. I guess I'll just do it by my finger tightness. This is stupid. I should just take this roll bar off. This is the dumbest thing. Also, just in case you run into that in the future, I don't know where my wrenches are, but typically a spark plug socket will come with like a hex pattern where you can actually throw a wrench on it, and just in case you're in a tight spot. Anyway, let's grab the second one. Okay, so this is our engine oil filter. 528, hopefully that's legible over there, and if it's not, I'll rewrite it. And this is our hydraulic filter. August of 24. How did I already forget? 528 hours. Alright, so we'll spin those on. I'm not going to pre-fill either one, to be honest. Hydraulic, I'm just going to fill up to the line, run it through its functions, and then top it off as needed. Oil is a side mount, so there's no way I'm going to try pre-filling that. Okay, we got our little drain valve here, and I checked my O-ring collection. I do not have one. I'm going to peel this off of here just to look at it. And if it looks decent, which I think it does, yeah, this ain't bad. There's really no damage to it or creasing or anything like that, so I think that's fine. Take a little brake clean to this just to clean it up. Throw our O-ring back on there. Easy now. Fixed, hopefully, maybe. I'm going to cinch it down a little tighter than it was before. Hopefully that'll solve our issue. I've got to say, kind of a stupid design there. There's really no good way, now that I'm tightening it, I realize there's really no good way of tightening it down. You tighten it from the little bolt on the outside, but that's plastic, so you really can't get any torque on it. And then the socket shape to the main part of the body, you have your little drain valve in the way, so you can't get a socket on it. And there's no way to get a wrench in here, so I don't know what they were doing there. Kind of silly if you ask me. All right, let's throw some fluid in this thing. Little box up here calls for, just like new Corvettes, Porsches, and the Space Shuttle, Exmark mowers use Mobil 1 synthetic oil. It's kind of a dramatic way of saying that, especially on a sticker that's permanently there. But I am going to use a full synthetic. O'Reilly's didn't have the correct weight, so I'm not going to share what weight this is. I'm just going to use it. Hope that's okay with you. I guess I could look up how much this takes just to get a general idea. 2 quarts. All right, I'm just filling up these tires before I get too far ahead of myself and forget. Of course, this one is in a terrible place. All right, so that is everything. Let's see if we can't throw this seat down, crank her over, and see what happens. Yep, a little choke. Just a little sniff of ether for prime, essentially. Ready? Try again. Sweet. yeah. Back in the operator's chair for this one. How about a little gas? Nope. Carburetor, don't fail me now. There we go. That don't seem right. Oh, I forgot there's a kill switch for... I totally forgot that part of the story. Oh, that just reminded me. So, when my dad first bought this mower, he obviously used it first, and then I was begging to learn how to operate it because I used to cut grass on our old Cub Cadet, just regular riding mower. And he put me in the chair, tried starting it up, and it wouldn't start. I was so small, so young, that the weight sensor in the seat for, you know, when you sit down, my skid steer has the same thing. It senses that somebody's in the chair, and then it's a safety switch, then it'll fire up. I was so light that I couldn't set off the weight sensor. So what we did was he put, this is so dumb, he put a bag of Quickcrete on the chair and then strapped me in. This was before this had the roll bar and the seat belt that basically came back in for a recall, and they put those on. But before the seat belt was on there, he took a bungee cord and strapped me into the seat, and that was my makeshift seat belt. So my mom was not a fan of that one, but I was having a great time. So totally forgot about that. That's such a funny little quirk. All right, so what was I doing again? These are bent in. Let me show you that. So with these in, they kind of cross over. So I was actually looking at this earlier because I remember that being a thing, and there's really no adjustment, and there doesn't really seem to be any sort of play. So I'm thinking maybe these got bent at some point for some reason. And it looks like this one right here. So I might just take a little bar and see if I can't bend that a little back over, see if that does it. Okay, how about a little bit of persuasion here? Better, not quite. Oh, felt that. Much better. I'm actually gonna do a little on this side too. Yeah, I think that's good. Now, I might have to spray this with ether again. Let's try. I wanted to, maybe some choke.
Who's your daddy?
There we go, how's that? I bet you this thing just needs to get the cobwebs blown out of it. Whoa, ho, 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 there she goes. Peppy. It's like if you go too hard on the throttle, it'll die out. At least it's starting back up now. PTO. You guys didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? I'm going to bring you over underneath the machine. You're going to be my eyes and ears because something ain't right. When I engaged the PTO, it was kind of whiny, and I'm wondering, and then I looked underneath and I got a big leak going on, so. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating. I haven't ever heard this PTO engage in the garage, in a garage in general, so maybe it's just a little violent in here, but it still kind of sounds like a bearing to me or something. Something isn't happy. But the leak, I tightened up the filter, the hydraulic filter on the bottom, and I think that was all that was. I'll keep an eye on it, but here's what I'm thinking. It's dark out, so I'm gonna wait until tomorrow after work. We're gonna take this thing through its paces. We're gonna run it around the yard and see if we can't cut some grass with it. I'm gonna listen to the blades running on the outside, see if that rings a bell, sounds familiar to me. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've ran this thing, but it still kind of sounds like, to me, like a bearing inside that main drive for the belt that engages the PTO and the blades and all that. It just sounds crusty, but I'm also gonna run around, find all the grease zerks. I gotta find my grease gun, so I'm gonna do that tonight and see what grease fittings I can hit. And then tomorrow, take it for a little test drive, see if it cuts. I'm gonna start this up, okay? Don't be scared. Yeah, lady girl! Try it. we got her cut. I broke my camera lens protector earlier, and at the same time, this is what I prop my camera up on this tripod with, and that broke. So I'm doing the best I can with what I got right now. But the grass is cut. Mower did great. The only thing I will say is that the main bearing that drives the cutting blades definitely is not happy. It sounds pretty crunchy. When you engage and disengage, it really has like a grinding sound that I don't recognize, so I think that's that bearing. But when it's running, I mean, it cuts fine. I just think eventually that bearing's probably going to blow up and throw ball bearings all over my yard at some point. So over the winter, we'll get that thing replaced. Other than that, I have no complaints with it right now. It ran great. I mean, I'm thinking that fresh gas and fresh spark plugs made it come back around. I think the carburetor's all nice and clear at this point, so it ran really well. I did shut it off at one point and went to turn it back over to start it back up, and it fired right back up. So I think we're golden with that one, and we're off and running. Yard looks good. I got a lot of cleanup to do around here still. I got to deal with all these cattails over here and rerouting a PVC pipe that I was cutting around, and yeah, those are going to be future projects with equipment that we haven't shown quite yet, but we will get there in a little bit. Other than that, I think that's going to bring this one to a close. Like I said, little simple project for the channel, but had to happen. So got that one done, check it off the list, moving on to the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed following along, even though it was a little more simple stuff. Follow me on the Instagram, the Facebook, the Tiki-Talkies. Share the video, like it, comment, all that fun stuff. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. But always remember, don't be afraid to grab that wrench, get after yourself. See you next time.